All right, hey guys, what's going on? It's me again. It's Ariel. Excited to be having all these great interviews the past few days. We will be having more of these interviews. If you know anyone who would benefit from these interviews, share it. Share our page. Get them to like it. And if you haven't liked it, like it as well. So with me today, I'm excited to introduce Tzvi Joffre from Memphis, Tennessee. We both studied in Migdal HaTorah. He made Aliyah during his years in yeshiva, and he will be speaking about what it was like to be in high school in Israel. Tzvi, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Tzvi Joffre, as you heard. Um, so I guess I'll go from the Aliyah aspect. My first extended period in Israel was when I came here for high school, actually, for technically 10th grade, but I was here for my 11th grade year. Spent about a year here, finished up that year right before Tzvi broke out, Protective Edge broke out, and then came back to America, finished high school, and then came back here again for yeshiva for 3 years. And at the beginning of the third year, at the end of the second year, I decided to make Aliyah. I went through the whole process, and by August of that year, which was the beginning of my third year yeshiva, I made Aliyah. Became a citizen, came here on a nefesh flight and everything. At the moment, I'm still teaching at the yeshiva. Well, yeah, teaching, not learning as much, but still learning a couple of times a week. But my main job now is I work at the Jerusalem Post as a breaking news editor. And I, what's it called? I study electrical engineering currently at the Open University, and a track that will eventually end up at Ben Gurion University in Beersheba.
Wow, that's awesome. And you mentioned you went to high school in Israel. Now, did you have a difficult time learning Hebrew? You're coming from Memphis to Israel. Was it difficult for you to follow in Hebrew?
So I was kind of lucky because in Memphis we do a lot of relatively intensive Hebrew studies, like Hebrew language studies as well. Like Ivrit B'Ivrit, we go into the class, we only speak Hebrew for however long the class is, at least twice a week. So I was lucky to come in with a background. It was still difficult to get used to it, but because you just don't have an option when you're in a high school, because the high school, almost everything was in Hebrew except for a couple of classes. One of those classes being English. So in general, yeah, so I did have to get used to the language, but because you don't really have another choice except for to get used to the language, it in some ways weirdly makes it easier because you just kind of throw yourself into the language.
Right. Yeah.
You're not thinking about anything else.
Right. Yeah. The reason why I asked is because I know there are many families who are concerned of their children. It may inhibit them from making Aliyah because of their kids. Not being able to follow in the high schools because of the language barrier. But you didn't seem to have the issue. But then again, you also had this great program in place in Memphis, where they taught you Hebrew.
Yeah, although I know a bunch of families that their kids had it actually weird. I don't know if weirdly enough, because kids in general have language easier, but yeah, a lot of kids will have it easier when it comes to the language. It's the parents that more times have a little bit of difficulty with the language.
Right. Yes. So the parents are blaming their children and not making Aliyah.
Yeah, no, they're not the ones you need to worry about.
Yeah, the kids aren't worried. You don't have to worry about the kids' parents. Don't worry about it. But okay, fine. So you work in the Jerusalem Post. Do you write in Hebrew or in English?
Jerusalem Post is entirely in English.
Okay.
The only time that we ever need Hebrew for is to translate, which comes up a lot because, like, if a politician speaks, they're going to speak in Hebrew. If I don't know, a researcher or a university releases something, they're going to generally release it in Hebrew. So there is a lot of translation involved. But in the end of the day, what we write, whatever comes out, is always in English. We have a sister newspaper that called Maariv, which is in Hebrew, but it's a different company technically.
Got it. I understand. And your classes in college right now are they're all in Hebrew, correct?
Yeah. I mean, there's sometimes terminology will be in English, but and the textbooks are sometimes in English for some reason, which happens a lot here. But the actual class, all the lectures, all the assignments have to be submitted in Hebrew.
Got it. And let me ask you a question. Why did you feel it was important for you to go to college in Israel opposed to America? Did you feel it would have been an easier time in Israel versus America? I mean, we do have an engineering program in America as well.
So, I mean, I planned on living in Israel already before I started college. So I kind of just wanted to learn where I'm living. I didn't really want to go back and forth. And also, the cost is definitely a lot more manageable here. I mean, as know that it's free, but in general, even if it wasn't free, it would be 13,000 shekel, which is like I think $3,000 more or less, which
Wow.
is nothing compared to the what is it, 50,000 at YU, 60,000, and that's just tuition. That's not even including rent and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Well, ask
But
Johnny Sassoon. He went to YU.
yeah, I mean, so yeah, it's the fact that like even for like one of the cheapest universities in America, it's still that cost it 1 year costs as much as all 4 years in America and in Israel rather. That's definitely a big help, and the level of learning, the level of the education is on the same level, if not higher, in many cases. So yeah, no, I didn't see any reason to learn in a country where I'm not going to live.
Right. It's very well said. And why did you decide to make Aliyah?
In all honesty, I'm not going to say it's for like some big ideological reason or anything. I honestly just feel comfortable here. When I was here for high school, when I came here for high school, I was already planning on making Aliyah. Um, when I already came with that idea. I came here in eighth grade on a school trip with Solomon Chapter School in Memphis. We came here for our eighth grade trip, and I just fell in love with the country. It's not even like an ideological thing. It's just I feel very comfortable here. I love the culture. I love just living here. Modi'in specifically is just an incredible place to live. It's in many ways it's weirdly like Memphis if Memphis were more Israeli, which is hard because Memphis is already pretty Israeli. But it's all green, all parks everywhere, very laid back. It's a city. It's got everything you need. It's got a mall. It's got every shop you would need. It's got shopping centers, every service you would need. Great public transportation, a train. Soon, depending on how long it actually takes, a train directly to Jerusalem. 20 minutes to Jerusalem on the train.
Right.
But yeah, another year they're saying, but it'll probably be a little bit longer. It's Israel.
I mean, don't
But
forget we also have a wonderful yeshiva there for Americans.
for sure, you got the
Yeah, it's
yeshiva
very important.
there. You've got a huge Anglo community here. I specifically don't live there because it's more like it's more set up for families. The more like roommate apartments are more in other areas of the city. And the yeshiva itself is outside of the Anglo area, but there are a lot of Anglo spread throughout Modi'in, just everywhere. And everyone basically knows English here.
Cool. And I just want to circle back to something you said. You said you felt comfortable here. You like the culture, and what specifically about Israel did you feel comfortable with?
I felt at home. That's the easiest way to put it. I don't know if there's anything specific. I came here and I just felt at home. And yeah, of course, there's difficulties dealing with bureaucracy on your own, taxes and everything, like at a relatively young age. And dealing with all the forms and all the different ministries and even a license here, it can be a lot of paperwork and stuff. But luckily, there's a lot of organizations, there's a lot of Facebook groups that help out.
Absolutely. I mean, there's one
So
specific I want to point out before I forget. I mean, you could definitely get on there as well. There's a Facebook group and an organization that a good friend of mine, David Eskenazi, started. It's called Aliyah Network. The organization, we basically connect future Olim with people who already made Aliyah, and with Israelis who can provide services for future Olim. We will be posting the link to the WhatsApp group to the Facebook group there. Anyone could get on there. So you're right. There are many resources, many WhatsApp groups that help people with this.
Yeah, it's as much as a lot of people say, I can't do it, there's no way. If there's a will, there's a way, and there's plenty of ways when it comes to Aliyah. That's for sure. There's just so much support out there, and you also get support from the government here. I mean, even as like a single young Oleh, I think altogether in my first 2 years of Aliyah, the government gave me over every month 20,000 shekel or something. Like they give you money to they make sure that you're taken care of. And if you
Hold on,
don't
did you
know what
say
to do,
20,000 shekel a month? What did you say?
no. Over
Oh,
like I think 24
okay.
months. It was about 2,000 shekel a month though, which is for a family it's not that much, but they give more to families.
Right. But
But
for
it
a
keep
young guy who's single,
yeah,
who doesn't have any more commitments than yourself, it's
it's great for
2,000
rent and
shekels. It's
stuff.
enough,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
How did you pay for your rent? Meaning, like, did you have that concern?
So when I first made Aliyah, no, because I was living in the yeshiva. So I was working there as a madrich, so not so much because I mean I was just living in their dorms, in the apartments. But now, yeah, in the past 2 years, in general, the past 3 years, I've been paying rent. And no, I mean I pay it from my work, and it's I'm able to pay and still have a decent amount of money left over. And I'm not. It's not like a crazy well-paying job I've got, but it's still it's enough to get by. That's for sure. Israel definitely isn't the cheapest country to live in, but it's definitely not the most expensive. It's doable in all different kinds of ways. So yeah, I mean, even in Modi'in, which is like at least rent wise can be a little bit expensive. Other things here are relatively cheap, like groceries and stuff are relatively cheap. Um, but even rent, you can always find a place here. It's again, if there's a will, there's a way, and and you don't even need that much will to get here. There's plenty of ways.
Absolutely. And as maybe just to wrap up with this last question, what advice or message would you give someone who's watching you, or who will be watching you in the future? Who may be in the same shoes as you are right now. What maybe do you have any points that maybe you hadn't have known of back then that you know now that can help him with this transition and making Aliyah?
Good question. I think.
Got to give us something, man.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think of one thing. That's the thing. Um, I would say what's it called? Don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to be assertive. Um, there's
Assertive.
so many people here willing to help. And if you're not assertive, there's plenty of people that are friends with you here that will be assertive for you. They'll be the Israeli for you. But don't be afraid about it. As much as yes, like bureaucracy can seem really like in some of these agencies, whatever, can seem a little bit scary at first. Um, you just got to put your foot forward a little bit and ask for help when you need it, and you'll be able to get by for sure.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tzvi, for joining us.